Thank you so much, Auntie Sylvia. Very well illustrated. And today I'm glad to see a number of people here. Good to see all of you. Some of you haven't seen you for a while, but it's good to have you. More will be coming on. I've also realized, by the way, those of us who've been sharing the Facebook link, there is a slight change to the Facebook link. The link is /Walter F. Mwambazi, not, so is it Rev Walter F. Mwambazi? That's the actual extension. It's not Rev Walter Mwambazi, but Rev Walter F. Mwambazi, because I think for those of you who follow my page, you know that I got the proverbial ban from Facebook and all the other procedures that they like to do when it comes to their so-called discipline and what have you. So that old link no longer works. It's now Walter F. Mwambazi. So please take note of that. So that means even when we share with people the link, we need to share the Walter F. Mwambazi link, which is what will work. So even though it says follow proceedings live, it needs to be Walter F. Mwambazi. So we had a bit of a problem when we used the other one. So it's good to really see some great people on the call this morning, some good dear leaders and friends and pastors and colleagues. But let's jump straight into the presentation. So we've been looking at this whole concept of quantum leaping, and I've told you millions of times that it's a concept that was taught by Dr. Price Pritchett, and Dr. Price Pritchett is really big on the whole idea. He says that any one of us, wherever we may be, are able to make what he called exponential leaps in progress as opposed to incremental ones. So incremental means you're adding little by little. Exponential means it's in leaps and bounds. And today I want to go deep into showing this. But before I do so, let me show you some things that shows that we live in a quantum age. And I'm going to demonstrate by using real examples from real life. And then those will help us all see. Even if you're watching this and listening to this and you haven't yet experienced this quantum leap, the beauty about the concept is that it's like what Napoleon Hill teaches in his book, Think and Grow Rich. He said, the key is to keep doing the right thing. The law of averages declares that if you keep doing the right thing often enough, regular enough, and you never relent but keep on plowing in, one day that one factor, that one call, that one situation, just one little thing will happen, and there'll be this explosion. I'm sure you've all heard the example of the bamboo tree that takes 3 years as a seedling. It doesn't even pop off the ground. It's just in the ground. 3 years, it doesn't even pop up. It doesn't come out. It's just there. But the idea is you have to keep watering it and tending it. And then on the 3rd year, it pops out as a seedling. And in 2 weeks, it grows to about 12 to 15 meters high. Now, that's some seriously scary stuff. I mean, it grows so fast that people say if you sit intently enough, you can actually watch it grow. But imagine 3 years, it sits in the ground, it doesn't come out. Now, that idea is what exemplifies what we're all doing here. We all work hard, we're all pushing, we're all putting in those little details. You're pushing, you're doing what it takes, and sometimes you don't see those results, and you begin to wonder, maybe there's something you're missing, maybe there's something you're not doing right. It is okay, keep at it. Jordan Adler, a very well-known network marketing leader in Beachbodies, 11 years he did not recruit even one person, 11 years. Just imagine how frustrating that is. And then on his 12th year, he recruits about 5 people and his business explodes. You know, life is funny. And now he's one of the $1 million earners. But 11 years, not even one person. I mean, if there's a person that should have quit, it should have been him. And there's so many countless examples like that, okay? Think of the KFC, Colonel Sanders. 3 years, 1,000 pitches, not a single person is accepting his deal. Living off his car boot and motels and driving around the whole United States looking for a partner, but he never gave up. And I'm giving these examples because there are many of us on this call. You are doing what it takes. You are pushing. You are relentless. You are doing everything right, okay? And you don't see anything happening and you say, maybe I missed it. No, you did not. You see, the law of averages states, if you keep doing the right thing. So the key here, that's the decider, the right thing. You look at those that are successful, you model what they're doing, you know it's working, you look at your environment, you push in everything possible, and you keep adapting and retrying, adapting and retrying. That's why in performance, we talk about plan, do, review. Plan, do, review. So meaning you plan, you perform, and then you review your results. And then you discard what doesn't work, and then you plan to put what works, and then you do again. And you keep on at this, and sooner or later, one day, out of nowhere, something just explodes, and it's a whole new ball game. And that's why you don't quit. That's why you don't give up. So even when I talk about these quantum leaps, I am telling you that all it takes is just that one event. But the truth of the matter is, people see the one event, but nobody sees the preparation for that one event. All of us live in readiness for that one big explosive opening. And the difference in those who go on to make impact and those who don't is preparation. No wonder the saying that success is when preparation meets opportunity. So the key here lies in the preparation. That's the key. You see, when the opportunity comes, it's the same tiny little one. But how much have you been preparing for it? How much have you been getting ready for it? And then when it shows up, have you got everything ready? Are you ready to run to its logical conclusion? The truth of the matter, the only people who can run to the logical conclusion are the people who always go ready. The foolish virgins, the wise virgins, classic example. In the foolish virgins, they just carried just enough, hoping that something will work out. The wise virgins carried spare oil. They said, you never know, these things can drag, this can turn into a marathon. We would think it's a sprint when we're starting, then we realize it's not the 100 meters, it's not 1 kilometer, it's not 2 kilometers, it's 26 kilometers. But at the time you're running, you don't even know where it's going to end. So they say that life is like a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, we have exceptional individuals who sprint throughout life and they do amazing things. But you know what? There are very few. It's like 1%, 0.0001%. There's how many Mark Zuckerbergs or Bill Gates do you have in the world, or Steve Jobs or Elon Musk? There are few. That's why we hear about them. The majority of people are going to be a Colonel Sanders, and they're going to push and they're going to push. And sometimes it doesn't look like it's working, but just keep at it. And sooner or later, believe me when I tell you that that explosion will come. You won't even know where it comes from. You do not know if it's that next phone call. You do know if it's that next pick. Pickaxe drop into the dirt. You don't know when you're going to hit pay dirt, but the idea is to keep digging. The idea is to keep planting. The idea is to keep tending and watering. The idea is to keep at it, consistently showing up and doing your work. And that's what makes a professional, because a professional shows up and does the work. He never quits. She never gives up. She never relents. She never gets discouraged. She does not look around her to see what the indicators are showing, because the Bible tells us that people move by, the faithful. They move by what? By faith and not by sight. They declare the things that are not as if they are. They declare the things that they cannot see. They believe the invisible and achieve the impossible. This is the secret of operating in this quantum space. You have to have this ability to stay totally focused, totally relentless, totally unswerving, completely undistracted, tunnel vision. When it comes to your success, you got to be tunnel visioned, because if you're not tunnel visioned, you will so be distracted. You will go that way, you will go that way, and you lose that all needed momentum. By the way, that's another thing before I get into the mathematical illustration. Momentum, a very critical component. They say that it takes 5 times the effort to start than to keep going. Let me say that again. It takes 5 times more effort, 5 times more energy, 5 times more resources to get something going than to keep going. Once you start moving, what happens is something kicks in called momentum. You start being pushed by, momentum is basically velocity times distance. So mass times velocity rather. So the mass of the object and the velocity make it move on. That's why it's easier when you start pushing a car. Once it starts moving, it's easier for it to keep going. But when you're just starting it from static still position, something called inertia fights you. It's very, very difficult to push it. That's why those of you that are in the habit of being perpetual starters are always expending too many resources, because you don't understand that the secret is not in starting, it's in continuing. Now, of course, you must have the wisdom to learn to know what needs to be dropped, to learn to know what needs to be quit, and what needs to be pursued with excellence and vigor. So there you have it. Let's quickly look at these examples real quick, and then we close. So number one, so we're talking about exponential results in quantum leaping. This is my closing presentation. This is the end of this particular series, and we're going to look at 3 examples. The first one is we call the linear effect exemplified over 4 phases. So linear effect exemplified by 4 phases. Now, I don't usually do this, but today I want you to do this. Go to your chat, and I want you to write these words, these numbers. I want you to write 2 times 2 equals 4, comma, 4 times 2 equals, let's begin with plus. 2 plus 2 equals 4, comma, 4 plus 2 equals 6, comma, 6 plus 2 equals 8, comma, 8 plus 2 equals 10. Write those 4 down real quick, and I'm watching you in your comment boxes because I want to illustrate my point right there. So let's begin. 2 plus 2 equals 4, comma, then 4 plus 2 equals 6, comma, 6 plus 2 equals 8, comma, 8 plus 2 equals 10. Write in your comment boxes. I want to see the comments. Just write real quick. This is very, very important because when I'm illustrating, it's going to hit home. So real quick, both on Facebook, those who are watching on Facebook, and then those of you who are on here on this platform. So write real quick. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4, comma, 4 plus 2 equals 6, comma, 6 plus 2 equals 8, comma, 8 plus 2 equals 10. Now, what you'll notice with that illustration is those are 4 phases. Thank you, Doc Ngoza. So that's exactly what that is. These are 4 phases. As you can see, in phase 1, it's 2 plus 2. In phase 2, it's 4 plus 2. Phase 6, and on and on. Now, what does this illustrate? This illustrates what we call incremental growth. Incremental growth means there's a direct correlation between the time I put in and the effort I put in and the result I get. So for instance, if I am whatever I am, and I can, and in 1 hour, I produce 1 unit of work. Okay, so 1 hour, okay, 10 units, let's use that. So 1 hour of my effort gives me 10 units of work. So in 8 hours in a standard day, I would produce 80 units of work, okay? Now, if I want to increase, if I really push it, I could do 12 hours a day, and that will give me 120 units in a day, okay? And if I really want to work like I'm going to die tomorrow, I could do double by doubling the time I put in. So which means I could go 16 hours, that's really madness, 16 hours of work to produce 160 units of work. Now, this 160 units is double what I would normally get, but I have to put in double the effort. Now, I could increase my skill, okay? I could increase my skill so that in 1 hour, I'm producing maybe 1 and 15 units. Instead of 10, I'm producing 15. So which means in 8 hours, I can produce 120 units. But let me be honest, that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of skill. That's a lot of expended energy. And the truth of the matter is, let's be real. How long can you sustain that? Okay, so this is really good stuff, but how long can you as an individual sustain that amount of activity? 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. How long can you sustain that? Most humans cannot. There will come a point you will break down. There will come a point where you can't go on anymore. And that, my friends, that illustration I've just given you, this illustrates the concept of time for money. Brunt labor, just brute force. This is what that illustrates. It's incremental, it's laborious, It's very effort involving. Most people in this space are what we call blue collar people. Blue collar means your laborers, like ditch diggers, tailors, maids, gardeners. Think of any field where it's brute force. My favorite example always is the wheelbarrow pusher, the porter. So he has to put in a lot of effort to be able to make money. His income and his earnings or her earnings are directly proportional to the time and effort they put in. This is what Dr. Price Pritchett calls incremental growth. Now, it looks great until you really study it and realize that this method is absolutely limited by the core, which is the person. So you can increase your skills, you can automate some processes, but you are still directly involved in it. And the truth of the matter, in fact, you can't even automate at this level. This level doesn't even involve automation. It's just pure brute force because you're exchanging time and effort directly for money. So it's always going to be how much effort you put in, how much time you put in. And that's why blue collar people are paid by time, not by number of units produced. Now, in some cases, they do numbers of units produced, but the problem is even those number of units produced are directly related to the time in. And that's why it becomes such a painful space to be in. Take it from me, I know that space. I hate that space. I don't like it at all. So let's go to the second illustration real quick. The second illustration is the multiplier effect. So here in the first illustration, we're talking about linear growth. So in the second one, we're talking about exponential or multiplier growth. Now, in multiplier growth, this is very, very interesting. We are going to look at 4 phases. Look at that. So let's do it now. Again, on your computers, on your comments, let's go real quick. 2 times 2 equals 4, comma, 4 times 2 equals 8, comma, 8 times 2 equals 16. Let's all write, comma, and 16 times 2 equals 32. There we go. So let's do that now. All right, so 2 times 2 equals 4, 4 times 2 equals 6, 6 times 2 equals, 4 times 2 equals 8, my apologies. 8 times 2 equals 16, and 16 times 2 equals 32. All right, I'm waiting for those comments to appear. Write those down. You are going to see something extremely profound here as a lesson to illustrate the difference between the first example, thank you, Kando, and the second one. Now watch this. In this one, the exponential growth, what happens? This person realizes that this thing of working 12 hours a day to produce 120 units of time of productivity, or they increase their skill to do maybe 160, that thing is unsustainable because it's directly related to the effort they put in and the time they put in. So what they learn is they go for the real secret, which is delegation. So they jump over. Okay, true, but Glenn, it's easy to automate, but I'll show you how it's done. So they use the process of duplication. You see, all the secret millionaires and billionaires have learned the secret to really increasing their output is to duplicate themselves. So initially, you know where you were doing the effort, you now teach that to people. So you start getting this multiplier effect. So watch what happens now. So where it was 2, what happens now? The 2 people, instead of 1 person, 2 people are producing double. That's why you start having the doubling effect. So for instance, back to our illustration, 1 person produces 10 units, but if there are 2, they are producing 20 in the same time period of 1 hour. Have you seen that? This is really where things start getting interesting. So most businesses will never grow for as long as everything is run by you, yours truly. If I'm running everything myself, I even tell my wife, we have to move away from the space where she's the one baking and doing everything. She has to move to the next stage. But you see, to be able to duplicate, you must lay the ground. You must put in place some systems and processes to help that happen. We call them systems, processes, tools. Now, most of us get the tools real quick because those are easy. But then the processes are really where the challenge starts getting more difficult. And then the system is what takes the longest to to put in place. Franchises are successful because they formulate a system that can be duplicated. So which means they now beat that barrier called time. They beat it completely. Watch. What does it take to produce 1 day's worth of effort in an hour? You just need 10 times the people. All right. So if 1 day a person produces 80 units, in 1 hour, you can produce 80 units with 8 people. Have you seen that? So just duplicate by 8 and you've done it. And so, which means how long does it take in terms of man hours to produce 1 day's worth of effort? So 1 day's worth of effort in 24 hours is how much? Is 240 units. All right. So 240 units, all you need is 3 people working for 8 hours and you've beat that barrier. If you get 8 people, you pass the barrier. That means you've beaten your 24-hour barrier. Here now comes in something called mass production. So let's go back to that number and look again. Look at what happens after 4 phases. Go back to your numbers and look at them. This is where things get interesting. Okay, so you find that now you are 3.2 times more productive after 4th phase in a multiplier exponential strategy than you are in the linear incremental strategy. So linear incremental growth is depressing. It doesn't grow. It's always dependent on manual hard labor, and it's very unsustainable. Whereas with the automated version, where you now have people duplicated, it means everybody's doing the same thing. All you need is a system, which my brother Glenn says is very difficult to set up. True. But once you set up that system and manage all those people, things get interesting. All of a sudden, you're beating the 24-hour barrier. You are now truly on your way to mass production in its truest sense of the word. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to what excites me. We call it the quantum effect. Now, the quantum effect is insane. That's why Dr. Price Pritchett calls it U squared, because it's squaring your effort. It is a whole other concept altogether. And you see this with all these new .com companies like Facebook and what have you. You're seeing it with a lot of these millennial companies. They are coming up and hitting $1 billion marks in really record time. Of course, there are serious implications behind the scenes, but that's not what we're discussing here. We're talking about this exponential growth, this ability to go and grow in quantum leaps. TikTok is a good example of a company that has come on the scene and is moving in leaps and bounds. Even the owners are failing to catch up with where it's going to and the issues that come with it. Facebook, Google. These are companies that were hitting billion-dollar incomes in under 10 years. Never heard of in industry ever. Most traditional companies were doing 25, 30 years before they actually hit the billion-dollar mark. But Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, we're hitting these numbers in under 6 years. And of course, Genesa, our company, also hit that number in under 6 years. These are unheard of, but that's what's happening in this day and age because the quantum effect is in place. So let's write this real quick. So 2 squared equals 4. Write that down, comma. 4 squared equals 16, comma. 16 squared equals 256. And the last one, I need to write this down for you, is 256 squared equals 65,536. There it is. I've put it for you in the comments so that you can copy it easily. So 2 squared equals 4. 4 squared equals 16. 16 squared equals 256, and 256 squared equals 65,536. Please take note of that number because that's a very, very powerful truth there. And it's extremely important you understand that component of what I've said. It is the secret to taking off at levels that are unbelievable. Now, what's exciting about this? What exactly is a quantum leap? A quantum leap is learning how to get all the multiplied components to operate at multiplied level. I mean, it's insane. Even when I think about it myself, I can't, it's difficult to fathom, but it's being demonstrated every day in nature. The level at which today computing is growing is quantum. It's not even multiplier anymore. The knowledge of the quality of chips, the quality of processors, the quality with which the internet is expanding, the quality, the ability with which knowledge is growing in these neural networks. It's at quantum level. That's why we are seeing things which were before impossible, like a company hitting $1 billion turnover in the space of under 10 years. In just 6 years, 7 years, they hit 1 billion. Reaching people today has never been more possible than ever before because of these effects we're talking about. Now, I want to show you something real quick. This is the killer lesson of the day. Killer lesson of the day. I want everybody who was watching the comments, just scroll through the comments and see something interesting. You're going to see that in the first example, 2 plus 2 is equals 4. This is the first linear effort. This is incremental effort. Then in the second one, this one is 2 times 2, which is the multiplier effect, okay? And what's the answer for this one as well? It's 4. That's very interesting. And then in the third one, it's 2 squared, right? Let me see. I don't have the square thing here, but I like what Glenn used, so I'll use the same one. All right, here it is. Have you noticed that? Look at the 3. The first one is linear. The second one is exponential. The third one is quantum. But have you noticed that the unit answer is the same? Now, I really want that to sink in. I know time is up, but I want this to sink in. I'm going to pause because I want you to look at this and think it through. Do you realize the lesson here? This is my sucker punch for the day. There's a very profound lesson here most people miss. Do you remember when I started my presentation? What did I tell you? I told you that when it comes to life and progress, like the bamboo tree, all efforts look the same at the beginning when it comes to results. I'll pause again and I'll say it. All effort looks the same when you begin. What's the differentiator? The differentiator is what is planted under the ground, A, and B, the effort in tending and watering. That's the differentiator. Most people never see that. So most people quit on phase 1. Most people quit on phase 1. Why? Because they let the results talk to them. They let the results talk to them instead of looking at the quality of the seed planted, the quality of the environment in which the seed is planted, and more importantly, the effort of tending and watering. They do not look at those. Instead, they look at the environment. And so, because they are not seeing a result, they quit, not realizing that theirs was either a bamboo tree or theirs was some monster oak tree or a mustard tree. You know, these are things that look so small and deceptive, you'd think they mean nothing completely. Yet, if you were just serious enough to stay consistent and plant and never quit and never give up and keep learning and keep going to get all the strategies from mentors and successful people and come and repeat, I assure you, one day that explosion will happen. One day you will discover that you are actually on a quantum path. But remember, every one of these 3 will produce the same result at the start. And that's why most people could be literally in the hand, they could literally have an Apple or an iPhone type of company or a TikTok, and they don't even realize it. They let it die because they quit thinking that they have done nothing because the results are telling them that it's a 4. It's amazing that 2 plus 2, 2 times 2, and 2 squared come to the same answer. Same answer of 4. But guess the difference? The difference is in the next phase. Watch this. 4 plus 2 is 6. Yet, 4 times 2 is 8. And yet 4 squared is 16. Look at the difference. Just that next phase, and the number leaps to 4 times. So on the quantum jump, the result is 4 times at second phase that on phase 1. Okay, so that of linear growth. So linear growth, it's 4 plus 2, 6. Very, very dismal. 4 squared, 16. That's already 10 times. That's already almost 3 times the difference. By the third level, oh my God, we're not even talking anymore. 16 squared is 256. I mean, you don't even compare. You don't even compare. On linear, they're getting to 8. On exponential, that's when they're hitting 16. But on this one, they've already squared the 16 that is at the second level of multiplier. That's why I want to encourage all of you today as I close, that never quit. These are the words of, well, there are many people say that, but I mean, I remember, what's his name? The famous old man, Churchill. You know, things were so rough. England and Europe were literally being whipped left, right, and center by Germany. Things were looking terrible. But what did Churchill say? He said, by hook or crook, by whatever means, by whatever cost, even if the cost is our entire very being, we will never quit. If it's to die, let us die. We will die. We're ready to die. We are not quitting. And you know, they told him, but sir, Germany has got superior weapons. Germany has got superior tactics. Germany has whipped all of Europe. Every country in Europe, with the exception of Russia, is actually in the hands of Germany. And what did he say? It doesn't matter. I don't care what the facts tell me. We will not relent. We will not quit. I love that. You see, this is what you need to understand. So if Churchill didn't have that bulldog mentality of never letting go, the whole thing would have crashed. We would have maybe had a different Europe today. Who knows? But it's the fact that they refused to accept the fact that the seed didn't look encouraging. The tree didn't look great. The opportunity looked dodgy. The circumstances looked dismal and depressing. They refused all that. They said, we see it in our minds, we picture it in our minds, we know we are in the right, we know we stand for the force of good, we will not quit. Never. And that's where the famous statement comes in. Never, never, and I mean never give up. I hope I've encouraged somebody. I hope I have, helped you with this particular closing presentation on the quantum leap to see that all it takes, my brothers and sisters, is to stay the course. Stay the course. All of us. This is a message for myself as well. Stay the course. Do the right thing. The signs may not show, but keep at it. You are going to make it through. Here's Maureen talking about, yes, exactly, the famous field of gold. He dug to a certain level, quit, and then the next person found the gold when he sold everything. Absolutely. Scored 3 feet from gold. Very powerful story in the Napoleon Hill book. 3 feet from gold. There's an interesting story about that man. Let me break protocol a bit and just close with that story Coach Maureen has raised. Very powerful. The story of the guy that quit, not the guy who succeeded and became a gold prospector, but the one who sold everything and quit and left. Do you know what his story is? He has a very interesting story. That gentleman, when he learned of his loss, when he learned that when he quit that place, he was 3 feet from gold, you know what he did? He said, from that day, I will never stop. He opened an insurance company and he took that principle to heart. He began to go around the whole United States and built one of the most formidable companies in the world. He always remembered what happened to him and how he was a few feet from fortune and gave up. It became his galvanizing lesson. By the time that man died, he died one of the wealthiest people in America. And what was his lesson? He learned when he quit the 3 feet from gold. It's a really interesting story. Go look it up. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, some of you here may have had a time when you quit. There's a time when, stuff, for lack of a better word, hit the fan, when things went wrong, when everything fell apart, when you lost everything. Some of us have been through that. and you feel like, oh my God, I'm a loser, I've got nothing, I have good news for you today. I am telling you, if you're sitting on the right opportunity, if you've got all the skills necessary, if you are surrounded by great mentors and leaders, and you are on the right company, my friend, it's a matter of time. Don't you give up. It's a matter of time. One phone call, one opportunity, one door, something will open one day, and people wonder where you came from. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.